don't know, Mason has played, you play everywhere, I guess, but you played locally for First Fridays last year for us and lives here in town, not from the area, transplant like some of us, but West Virginia. Yep, well, and, but welcome, but he lives right in town and going to work after that, right? Yeah, so I packed his dinner, so you might see him packing his stuff and going, but thank you, Mason, you did a great job. I appreciate it. I want to thank everybody for coming. Is that louder, David? I'm yelling. One of the things that this chamber does, and I think we do very well, is advocate for all of you on a government affairs level. And we've definitely improved and grown a lot of the relationships. So I'm going to thank all the elected officials for coming first, and then there's a few of you that are running for office that are not yet elected. And if I missed anybody, you can put your hand up, because I'm sure I will. I'm going to start with our speaker, who doesn't have to get up yet. It's Congressman Shuster. We have Representative Todd Rock, who's here. And you can kind of applaud, but it's probably better to wait. Senator Alloway was here. He's popped in. He mixed around with some of you and passed out his Growing a Beard for Charity papers. I've seen him on the floor. It's like a concert. He came through and then he left. But he's speaking at another event, and we're thrilled he came in. Judge Hawbaker. There he is. There's David. Let me see. I have everybody written down all over the place. Then we have our commissioners. We have Bob Zabrowski. There he is. He's in the back. We have Bob Thomas, right over here, right in the middle. And we have their chair, David Keller, also in the back. And our mayor, where's the mayor's sticker? I saw him, he's over here. And then we have 3 people, I think. Did I miss anybody who is elected in office? No? We have John Cook, who's running for our county pathonetary. He's here tonight if anybody wants any information from him. Eric Hawbaker, who's running for our local magistrate. And Chris Ardinger, who's running for school board. And I think a lot of us know Chris, either from being a kid and working at James Market when it was James Market, and now running for school board. And the chamber is very neutral, and we just want to advocate to those who are elected and support all of our elected officials, because we're very fortunate to do a great job. So we don't necessarily pick candidates, but I think Chris is a unique one, and we're not picking him for school board. But it's just nice to see a young man, 20 years old, running for school board, you know, and going for it. And it's nice, because a lot of us have children, and it's just nice to see you doing that. But our first speaker is Congressman Shuster, which is the first time you've spoken at one of our events exclusively. It's not the first time. But I'm not gonna say anything. But we appreciate you coming. The stage is yours, and you have 3 seconds.
I brought my BlackBerry up with a clock on it, so that Mary Ann gave me very explicit instructions that I had 5 minutes, and if I went over, she would hurt me. And those of you that have dealt with her before know that she's serious about her job, and she does a great job. And I know in the past 4 or 5 years that I've been dealing with Mary Ann, I've seen great strides she's made with the chamber here in Tuscarora Chamber. She's instructed me to make sure I don't screw that up.
Just keep it.
It really is a pleasure to be here this evening, to be in a community, a small community, and such a tight-knit community. I'm not the designated speaker for all of the other elected officials. Some of them would probably disagree with some of the things I said, especially one of the commissioners might take issue with a few things I say. So I'll try to keep it short and simple. Again, coming to a small community like this is really fabulous to see the turnout tonight and what you do in a small community. How you pull together really creates the fabric of America. My congressional district stretches from Waynesboro, Harrisburg, all the way over to Uniontown, and people say it's such a big district, so diverse, but I remind them that it really isn't that diverse, because it's made up of a lot of small towns, rural communities that have very similar needs and beliefs and values, so that makes it a lot easier for me. Just want to briefly just sort of give you a little bit of an update of what's happening in Washington. I won't go too far into depth, Mary Ann, because I'm on the clock. But we are facing some very tough issues in Washington, D.C. This nation of ours. We've got debt that's going to crush us if we don't deal with it. And we in Washington have to come together and figure out the solutions. And I think although you've seen a lot of fighting going on in Washington, we are moving in the right direction, and I believe we will come together as a nation to figure out how we deal with this debt, because we cannot continue the prosperity in America by taxing and spending. We've got to make sure that the private sector keeps their dollars, that families keep their dollars, and are able to decide how they're going to reinvest it so that we do continue to have prosperity here in America. And I'd urge you all, if you haven't seen the commercial on television, I don't actually know who puts this commercial out, but I think it's worth everybody seeing it, spending 30 seconds watching it. It's 2030, and it's a Chinese class, a class of Chinese students in China, I presume. The professor is speaking in Chinese, and there are American subtitles. And he talks about the history of the world and the great civilizations, and shows a picture of the Greeks and the Romans and the British and the United States of America, all the great civilizations in our last 2,000 or 3,000 years, and how they've all fallen because they tried to spend and tax and didn't deal with the debt situation that they incurred, trying to do far too much for the citizens, and they couldn't afford to do it. And the final thing he says in Chinese is, and that's why the Americans work for us. And these Chinese students get a little chuckle out of it. Well, that's what's going to happen if we don't deal with the problem that we face today. We have to seriously attack it. We have to, as Americans, realize that all of us have to participate in the sacrifice that we're going to have to incur. And I'm confident, though, that Americans understand the situation, and we will move forward in a way that we'll be able to deal with this situation we face. And we'll be able to get on a path to prosperity, and America will continue to be not just the greatest country in the world today, but what I believe is the greatest country in the history of the world. So again, I congratulate all of you for being out here tonight. Mary Ann, once again, another event. You've done a fabulous job. I see my time has expired, so I will go back to my seat and wait for further directions from Mary Ann. But thank you all very much for having me here this evening.